Okay, so I'm less proficient with AV machinery than Eloise, so I'm going to stick to this microphone. Traditionally, as PC chair, I'm also expected to give a bit of a insight into the process of how we composed the ICFP program. Of course, that's work that I haven't done alone, so there's a bunch of people to thank. I'm gonna show you a long list of names. People who are in the room, you're welcome to stand up and wave to the audience. We can maybe combine the applauses for the different things towards the end. So first, two people that did a lot of work are the associate PC chairs. So there's Peter Thiemann from Freiburg University and Manuel Serrano from INRIA in France. Manuel is also the PC chair for next year. So if you're here, please stand up. Next, there was a very expert program committee with 60 members, in addition to the three of us. Those of you who are here, please stand up. We had a bunch of external reviewers, I think about 50. I don't know if those people are also happen to be here. If you're here, please stand up. And finally, several PC members involved some of their students in the reviewing. I think this is personally, I think this is quite a good practice to give, let's say, talented and a bit senior students a bit of insight in how the reviewing process works on the inside. So if any of the people here are in the room, please stand up. Okay, with that out of the way, some statistics about ICFP this year. We had 110 submitted papers, and we ended up accepting 36, which means we had an acceptance rate of about 1/3. This is on par with previous years. This is both the total amount and the acceptance rate is similar than previous years. So I think ICFP is doing quite well. We worked with a 2-round process. That means in the first round, all papers were conditionally accepted. They got, let's say, required changes, required improvements that they had to make. For some papers, this was relatively limited. It was just fixing the sometimes minor remarks of reviewers. For some papers, this was more strict. There were like mandatory changes and in several cases, or in many cases, I think we were, as the PC was essentially unsure whether all these papers would end up being accepted. So this was not just a pro forma thing. This was a real mandatory changes that we expected. However, it seems all the authors did their homework very, very well, and we ended up satisfied with the changes in all these cases. Additionally, Derek already mentioned on Monday that there's a sort of standing agreement with the Journal of Functional Programming for what's called Journal First papers. This year, 9 JFP papers elected to present their work also at ICFP. I'm sure many of you saw these presentations already. They are intermixed with the rest of the program. Some further statistics. I tried to gather some statistics from the submission system about where we get submissions. I think it's not new that there's a bit of an imbalance between, let's say, all the continents of the world. So functional programming still appears to be mainly researched in Europe and North America and a bit in Asia. Other continents are largely missing. There's a few Australian papers in top on the top there, and I think there's a few from South America as well, but not many. I don't know if we as a community can do something about that, but this is the state of it. By the way, what I'm showing are numbers for author paper pairs. So if one author submitted multiple papers, he will be counted multiple times. So just to be correct. The acceptance rates were a bit different among let's say, the origins of the vocations. I found this interesting. I don't know if I have a good explanation. Of course, for individual countries, there are sometimes only a few submissions. So sometimes we have wide discrepancies. At the level of continents, also there's sometimes significant differences. I'm showing you some statistics. I'm not sure what exactly we learned from this, but it might be interesting. This is a slide that Ilya suggested I remove because it didn't contain any useful information, but I disagree. So one of the things that we as PC chairs and as associate PC chairs, when we assign reviewers and when we invite external reviewers, I think this slide shows what we strive for. So at ICFP, what we strive for is high quality reviewing. Particularly, we aim for 2 expert reviews per submitted paper. As you can see, I'm not sure if this is clear. So this is on the left, we see the amount of expert reviewers, and here the amount of, the amount of knowledgeable reviewers, which is the second highest expertise level. So you can see that in total, one paper had 4 expert reviewers, 11 had 3 expert reviewers, 44 had 2 expert reviewers. So this is where we reached our ambition. 40 papers had 1 expert reviewer, and 3 had no expert reviewer. So this is sort of what we try to avoid. I can tell you that this is not easy to always make sure there's an expert. So for some papers, they're in a very niche topic, and then you invite an external reviewer who tells you that he thinks he's going to be able to provide an expert review, and then 3 days before the deadline, they submit a knowledgeable review. So this happens. It's not easy. However, I'm actually quite satisfied with these numbers. So I think in the large majority of cases, I think we did very high quality reviewing, and I think as a program committee, and definitely I as a program chair, I'm proud of these numbers, so that's why I wanted to show them. There's a few, I think on the whole, I'm personally satisfied with how the reviewing process went. I hope the authors agreed. Maybe the ones in the room are the ones that have presented, so they may be more satisfied than the average submitters. But I hope also the people who submitted papers that got rejected are also happy with the feedback that they got. I listed a few lessons learned here, or things that I think as a community might be worth thinking about. I don't think they're major things. One thing that I think we should look at is institutional conflicts at very large organizations. For example, INRIA is a French research organization with, I think, about 2,500 researchers in total. So what happens is when you're in a PC, you have to fill in a list of names or a list of institutions that you are conflicted with. People who work for INRIA or for these other large organizations, they all have a bit of their own policy of what they should do with this. Some people mark all of INRIA as conflicted. Some people mark sort of the sub-organization of INRIA that they work for, or the location, as conflicted. I think it would be useful to have a bit more policy there. And I think considering 2,500 people, almost the large majority of people who work on programming languages in a country as conflicted is not a good practice. So I think we should be a bit more a bit more narrow there. I think a policy is needed, but maybe this needs to be taken up at SIG plan level. And second, one thing I would have done differently in hindsight is the reviewing model for second round reviewing. So what we did this year, it was essentially what I call a single shot resubmission model. That meant reviewers got mandatory revision criteria, and then essentially they had one shot to resubmit. We had not designated a shepherd. That meant that there was, and I didn't realize this up front, but that meant that there wasn't really a way for authors to ask clarifications about these revision criteria, or not in an efficient way at least. I think we ended up pragmatically resolving the situation. We allowed some communication in a few cases, and I think we treated all authors fairly. However, I think personally I would recommend to move to a bit more of a shepherding model, where after round one we designate one of the reviewers as a kind of shepherd who can then communicate with the authors, provide clarifications if necessary, etc. So, but of course, this is something that will have to be taken up by my successor, Manuel Serrano, who will, I'm sure, have his own opinion about that and decide what to do. Before I forget, I think Ilya will, in his general chair report, still provide a few thank yous to many people. However, I think it's important that we don't forget someone who has done a lot of work on this conference. I took the liberty of providing a thank you present for Ilya. So, as Simon said, we don't necessarily know much about teaching, but one of the things I learned about teaching is that. Sorry, let's take a picture.
Thank you.
So when Ilya was doing his PhD in Belgium, we sometimes had events together. One of the things I taught Ilya at the time was that you should drink good beer from a glass that is adapted to the kind of beer you're drinking. One of the things I learned about teaching is repetition is the mother of teaching.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for the lesson.
I hope you enjoy. So thanks, Ilya, for the large amount of work that you did on making ICFP successful. And with that, this is all I wanted to say. So thank you. And I'm passing the microphone to